Good morning, everyone. Brady and I were actually talking yesterday about how many years we've been involved with this event, and Skyhook has actually been integrated into this and participating since the very first one. And I can assure you that at the first Where 2.0, it was a much smaller room, and there was very few people who had any concept of what this could become. And it's really exciting to see what's happened over the past year or so, all the energy around it, certainly all the new devices and new applications. For us, we consider us the guys that make all this come together. You might take it for granted when you're out at night and you check in at a restaurant, and the first restaurant that comes up is the one you're at, or you use Shop Savvy on Android and it actually plots you at the exact location. That stuff's actually really hard, and we've spent 7 years trying to figure out how to make this work reliably all the time and wherever you go. And so that's where we come at it. We're trying to make all these applications and use cases come together. We do that through this crazy reference system we have of hundreds of millions of Wi-Fi access points and cell towers all around the world, covering most of the developed population in the world. Right now, our network has roughly 90 million devices on it, and every day we handle over 300 million location requests, 300 million times a day. That's what the scientists call a shitload. And what we're trying to do is drive that up more and more and push that as close as we can to maybe 1 billion requests a day. And we also spend a lot of time trying to understand the application market because we know apps drive the mobile industry. And so we're nothing unless somebody puts a good use case on top of a lat long. And so we spend a lot of time analyzing what apps are out there, what categories they're in, how many there are. We count every single location app that gets launched on a smartphone app store. And I was up here last year, and we were talking about how there was 3,000 location-based apps in the world and how amazing that was in just a short period of time. And I wondered, on the pace we were at, that we'll probably more than double it by the end of the year. Well, right now we're over 8,000 location apps across all these app stores. Most of them are obviously on the iPhone App Store. If you ask me, that's because they have the best location platform. But we really are seeing it broken out across all the different devices. And every device maker and every app store recognizes how important location is going to be. But as great as that is, we still think that's a small segment of all the apps. I mean, there's a couple 100,000 apps, and here's 8,000 that use location. I think all of us believe that location is going to be a critical part of every kind of application. The other thing we do is, as we're coming across all these apps, we tend to find some really odd ones that you wouldn't think about. And it's always interesting to see the kind of creativity that people come up with and what they try and do. Some of it's a little shocking and upsetting, too. So one I've just been hearing about lately is fake mayor. So you're checking in everywhere and you're trying to become the mayor. Fake mayor allows you to just say, I'm the mayor here, and you walk in and say, can I have a free drink, please? And everywhere you go, you can try and get the mayor's free rewards just by claiming you're the mayor. It's kind of a dick thing to do, but pretty creative. Now this other one, iPoo, is it's not exactly what the name sounds like, but it's close. And there's apparently a whole genre of this, but. You think about it, you spend a fair amount of time in certain activities every day. Why should you have to do it alone? And so if you are, you could actually connect with other people in the exact same situation and see where they are around you, chat about it in some way, maybe even some interesting commentary. And there's interesting stats here along the way. And they actually have a really cool part of it where there's a virtual stall door you can put graffiti on and share it around with everyone. Now, why they're doing this, I have no idea, but it's fascinating, these kind of ideas. And as Brady said, we're seeing all this location usage, and we're trying to make sense of it. We're starting to get a picture into human behavior at an aggregate level just to see where people are throughout the day. And we announced with our friends at Simple Geo this product called Spot Rank, which basically ranks all the different places in the world based on usage density at that time, that day of the week. And what we found is that's very, very predictive. As you might imagine, people do the same thing every day. So 90% of the time, I can tell you what's going to happen on that street corner tomorrow at 3 p.m. because it's going to happen that same way every single Tuesday. And so we're looking at different ways to use this. We're putting it out to the app developer community to figure out how they can integrate this into applications, maybe roll it into marketing and advertising. We're not sure. And we post some of it up as part of South by Southwest, because you knew there's a lot of activity there with the check-ins. And we wanted to show, the point I was trying to make is, that's great what's happening in Austin, but there's all these phones around the world. There's a tremendous amount of activity that's not in Austin. And a typical day, New York and Paris are the most active cities we see in the world. Well, as we dug into it, what we found is actually Austin was overwhelmingly the most active place in the world for those 2 days. It actually blew Midtown Manhattan off the map. And so I went in thinking I could show that, hey, there's all this great stuff happening around the world. It's not just at South by Southwest. The reality is the entire focus of location was happening down in Austin. Really, really amazing stuff. And we're looking to do things like that around different types of events that occur time to time. So now the way things have happened with the 8,000 apps today is they tend to have a physical attribute about them because it's what you'd think. You're trying to get from A to B. You're trying to look up something. So Flickster allows you to find movie theaters nearby you. My Starbucks helps you find the coffee shop. You can look up weather and news around you. It's all about some sort of a physical context. And you can see that reflected in the categories. It's travel, navigation, it's fitness for doing running, et cetera. And we're starting to see some emergence around social networking and entertainment. The whole check-in craze has really driven a lot of that. But this is really still a small section of the App Store, and it's kind of these obvious use cases. And what we're trying to do is drive more and more of that thinking into other use cases. Now, March of this year is kind of the equivalent of the birth of Christ for location. It's just that it was that monumental an episode in the history of everything we've been doing. Some of us have been wandering the desert for what feels like 40 years, trying to get everyone to think about location, and then the iPhone comes along, and then all of a sudden in March, Dennis and Josh start walking on water, and all this great stuff starts happening. And so everything from here on out is just all about that kind of activity. I mean, Josh and Dennis, you can't even get near now. They're like rock stars with TV cameras around them all the time. It's just, you think about that around location is so very different for us who've been doing this for a long time. But I think, what's happening now is everyone's kind of jumping on this and coming up with similar concepts. It's starting to feel a little congested. And what's really neat about the check-in model, we think, is it really humanized what location could be for other types of applications, beyond just getting from A to B. Thinking about how location can change the way you do things and the behaviors you have and the relationships you have with people is what those guys convinced us with this check-in concept. And so we think that's just going to launch us into a whole bunch of different types of use cases and apps. And so what we're trying to do is push that along. So if you think about these other digital content categories like fitness and reference, movies, books, food, news, health, events, all these activities we think could use location, and you're seeing some instances of it. So if you use Shazam, for example, you can tag the location of a song you like, and then see all the songs that people are liking around you. We think that's an interesting concept, and it's just starting to push into a bunch of these app categories. But app developers are kind of struggling. I build a movie app, I'm trying to do movies. I don't have time to add these other features, and I can't find enough good iPhone developers. And so for us, we want to promote this and push it. So we're actually rolling out a new product called Local Faves, which is a developer kit to help add all these location capabilities to any application. And so just by integrating this into your existing app, you now get tagging of location, map views, and rankings, hooks into Foursquare, you can check in, you can track people through Facebook and Twitter, with the whole concept being that if you bring in location in this community element, you actually get people to use your app more. Instead of uninstalling it after 30 days and trying another wine drinking app, you stick with that one because you've integrated, you've connected with people on Facebook, you've seen who's drinking things around you. It ties you and it makes you more engaged into the application. And we think location is the key that does that. So real quick, I'll show you some use cases that we've been starting to work with developers on to give you a feel for this. Again, it's entirely inside their application, but if you have a beer or a wine drinking app, you can then tag that you're drinking a certain bottle of wine at a restaurant. You can take a picture of that glass of wine and bottle of wine and share it up to your Flickr account. You can then, if you want, check into that restaurant and associate what you're doing with a particular venue. You can broadcast that out through Facebook and Twitter so that just like you're checking in somewhere, now you're doing some activity at this place related inside this application. Once you start doing this, every time you're drinking wine, you're going to go back to this application as opposed to the 50 others that are out there. Music, the same idea. I listen to a song. I like this song. What are the top songs being listened to around me? What are the trends that are happening through heat maps of different types of music genres? What are people saying about that? All these kind of capabilities can instantly be added to every single music app. Books is the same idea. If you talk to any of the guys building the e-readers, they all want to add location, and you wouldn't think so. But people want to know what are the top books people are reading around me. Or I go to vacation on Cape Cod, and I want to know what are the books written about Cape Cod. And then I want to share that information with others. I want to see what are the top readers in my area. Those are the kind of things we think location can bring into all these apps. And so I'm going to try to be brave here and show you a quick little demo of this. So what we did is, to give you an example, is we built a drinking app. And this is just basically on high-end cocktails. And so what you can do is you can scroll through a whole database of drinks. Like a lot of the apps you see, it'll just say simple things about it. And this would probably be an app that's up on the App Store already, just a little bit about it. It's like a reference guide of things. But when you add location to it, you can now say, I was somewhere and I actually drank that. And it'll just stamp the location. If you want, you can attach it to a Foursquare venue. You know, this is the simulator, so the Apple stuff comes up. But, you know, why not go drinking with Steve, right? You can add comments. You drank it, right? That gets registered. Now you go back to your community, and you now see your drinks and everyone else's drinks around the world or in your area. You can then see, you know, what are people drinking around me? And I can go in and see all the different drinks that people have drinking, where they are, all around your area. I could say over the past, 2 days, 3 months, just what's happening around me, and connect with those people. I can also go into individual areas and say, okay, here's the Boilermaker. It's a damn good drink. Who else is drinking it around me? Look at this. It's really popular in San Francisco, not so much down in San Jose. Who else has been drinking it lately? I want to get to know that person. I want to follow them. Now, every time they go out drinking, I get a notice of what they're drinking, and I know all about them. Rhonda's probably not so happy about that. And all these things get blown out with the same concepts of who's drinking the most Boilermakers around the world right now. And so you can drink more to get up higher on the list. I mean, all these gaming concepts. Seems like a noble goal, right? And so just think about that. This is the drinking example, but think about all those other categories this is designed to fit into. Now, these aren't hard things to build. Everyone else can do this. But you have to dedicate a couple iPhone developers for 2 or 3 months to get this up and running. With Local Faves, you plug this in, and we've worked with guys who do it in about a day. It's very straightforward. If over time they want to build it in-house, that's fine. All we're trying to do is get people to use location in these new categories and push them along. For your coders out there, these are pretty straightforward. You get to control the look and feel of the screens, the syntax, everything about it looks like your app, but we're doing all the work underneath. So the whole idea here is that this is free. Again, we're trying to drive the usage. We're trying to drive that behavioral data that we can use down the road. This is available, coincidentally enough, on my birthday. So it'd be a great present if you all went and downloaded and installed this into your app for me. And what we're trying to do is just get this out there as much as possible and see what people can do with location. And we think it'll be really exciting as all these elements go into more and more apps, and the usage volume is just going to go through the roof. So that's about what I had, and thank you very much for having me once again, Brady.
Wait one second, Ted.